Okay, guys, we are back with another part 2 of Ricky's video. Today, hopefully, we are gonna finish off all other Xeno factions, and hopefully, the incident in the previous video does not happen because it would be very funny and very sad if it did. You know what? I'm actually gonna check it right now. Yeah, it's alright. Oh no. Oh my god, I'm misclicking. So, we learned about chaos and the elders, la 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 la. Now, he's gonna tell us about the bugs.
Now, bugs.
Ma, they following me, Ma. They following me. The bugs.
Jesus, guys,
The
I'm recording.
Tyranids. Now, you want to talk something a lot more fun, a little more simple than all this crazy Eldar shenanigans?
Yeah.
Let's talk the Tyranids. They're bugs. Do they look like Zerg? Hell yeah, they look like Zerg. You want to know why they look like Zerg? Because they were actually supposed to be what Zerg were.
My friend told me that they were supposed to be like a StarCraft game.
Apparently StarCraft was supposed
I
to
never
be a
played
40k
it.
game in the beginning, hence why they look so much like Eldar Zerg.
I
and
played
the
Heroes
Imperium
of the
Man.
Storm, so I know a
Kinda
couple
Space Marine-y.
characters.
Those Marines, huh? They look a little bit Space Marine-y.
Very Space Marine.
Maybe. I don't know. You really fucked up on that one, Games Workshop, didn't ya? Tyranids are a giant infestation of unfathomable proportions. These are giant, extremely bio-advanced hive mind organisms that are basically all about absorbing as much biomass as they possibly can to evolve and mutate to be extremely potent and powerful and kill and eat anything in their path. They are probably the least evil faction in all of 40k because all they want to do is eat shit. They want to nom nom the entire galaxy.
He said what I said.
Angry and we food. Also, this Tyranid hive mind has
I hate these guys. If you played Space Marine 2, I fucking hate these guys. If you play on the hardest difficulty, they're so annoying. It's always two of them, and one you start shooting one, and by the time you can almost kill it, the shield switches places in between them.
In the warp.
So
in fact,
annoying.
Tyranids in their own right
I hate
have a
them.
massive presence in the warp.
I
They have a
lost
thing
so
called
many
the
games
Shadow
because
in the
of
warp
these
specifically,
guys.
Where when they are coming in to invade a planet, they have this weird ability to kind of cut off the warp on all the psychers on that planet. And how do you get help across the stars? Well, you need the warp because you need that for interstellar travel. So with people unable to call for help from the Tyranids, these are just easy pickings. And an entire giant Tyranid hive fleet comes out of orbit and just will massacre, absorbing all that biomass and turning them and all of their other Tyranids into even more advanced monsters. They come in so many varieties too, all based on what is important. Tiny little ripper swarms for scouting and having little dudes eat people up, to the Hormagons, Termagants, and Genestealers, all the way to the Hive Guard and the Exocrines and the Swarm Lord, to Hive Tyrants and their giant battle fleets, and even something as crazy as the Hierophant Bio Titan. The Tyranids come in all
I wish we would add something like this to Space Marine 2. It would be so epic.
They are extremely good at anti-biological weaponry. There is no way you could plague them or blight them. They have extremely strong armor, carapaces and such. Tyranids are nigh perfect organisms and are pretty spooky when it comes down to how they handle all of their genetic material. Keep feeding them, they'll keep evolving. They keep on creating new.
That's the scariest part of them, that they evolve.
Spread across the galaxy. And you know what the most terrifying part of the Tyranids is?
There's something even more terrifying about them?
We might be surrounded. There have been like around 6 or 7 Tyranid hive fleets. Behemoth, Kronos, all these different kinds of hive fleets. And they've all arrived in the galaxy from different points. Different sections of the Milky Way galaxy have had different Tyranids come through. And that is horrifying.
Does it mean that there's a chance that there's like nothing else outside the galaxy? Just Tyranids?
Because as far as we know, we could just be surrounded on all sides by Tyranids. The only reason you may not hear a whole lot about Tyranids is because it's a little bit hard to have a bunch of story off of one hive mind genocidal monsters. All these giant bugs swarming in, killing and eating everybody and evolving. I mean, as cool as there are, there's some cool characters.
The visual is
Swarm Lord,
crazy.
One Eye. You can't really have a whole bunch of major character-based stories around them. As awesome as they are, they're simple. They want to eat you. They want to eat you and absorb your biomass. They are simple bugs. If you want something a little more complex, talk Genestealer Cults.
I can have all the pot I want, I get around faster than walking, and wherever I need a seat, I can just sit on my balls.
Genestealer Cults are a special brand of Tyranid that can slowly infect themselves into different kinds of society. And by infecting them, they can rise up to where they all pray and believe.
I'm confused. Are these like still Tyranids?
In these regular humans, pray and believe into their Tyranid hive mind gods.
Right,
and
most
these
unfortunate
brood lords
pauses.
and I think they're called patriarchs, all can turn an entire world all based into Genestealers. And these are called Genestealer cults. An entire hive world of the Imperium can be turned into nothing but servants of the Tyranid masters just by infecting them and screwing with their genetic code a little bit. They also have this cool like Mad Max look, which is really neat. They are definitely one of the bigger threats to the Imperium besides Chaos. I keep saying biggest threat to the Imperium. They're up there though, because you, dingus, stepped on a bug in middle school.
Sorry guys, I didn't mean to step
There
on
is
the
a
bug.
cancer eating at the Imperium. With each decade, it advances deeper, leaving drained, dead worlds in its wake. This horror, this abomination, has thought and purpose that functions on an unimaginable galactic scale. And all we can do is to try to stop the swarms of bioengineer monsters it unleashes upon us by instinct. We have given the horror a name to salvage our fears. We call it the Tyranid race. But if it is aware of us, it must know us as nothing but prey.
I also know this fun fact. Again, I have a Warhammer friend who is like a nerd, and he tells me a lot that they're called Tyranids because the first planet where they spotted Tyranids were called Tira, or it was called like Tira or something like that. So that's why they're called Tyranids.
They're cool. But are they as cool as the Orks?
Okay, obviously, you're gonna be a bit like, well, usually you show us some Dawn of War thingies with their races. And to what I must say is, yes, I will. Tyranids were not a playable race in Dawn of War games, but there is this mod. It's very easy to download and install. You guys can figure it out. It's very fun. It works perfectly. It has a lot of units. You can do it yourselves. Genuinely, you should try this mod out. It's super cool. I played it. It's amazing. I love the units. I wish they were added into the game. It's sad that it's only the mod for Dawn of War, but amazing units. I like their shtick. It's like a bit, I think, as Dark Elder, is that you start building their buildings, and their buildings built by themselves without the the engineers. So it's super cool. I really like them. And let's continue with probably the funniest faction in Warhammer 40k, Orks.
Every screen's gone red! That means I'm super fast!
Orks, 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 orks.
They're so
orks.
funny. I love orks.
Love orks.
So funny.
So, yes, the green monsters, the green tide, the green skins. These orks, they are in fact a race in 40k. The orks are as exactly what you expect them. They have archaic weapons, they're big boys, they have axes, and they have got big old teeth, and they want to kill everything, and there are so many of them. The only reason they haven't taken over the entire galaxy is they can't stop murdering each other. Orks are so cool. Orks don't have philosophy. Orks don't have existential crisis. What matters is who's the biggest ork. You listen to that guy, because he the biggest ork. He big ork knows best. You win through the power of imagination. Of all the races I have battled throughout the galaxy, the ork is the hardest to comprehend. They wage war with machines that should not work, care little for strategic gains, and are just as likely to slaughter each other as the enemy. How does one battle an enemy that defies all logic? As an orc, you're enjoying life. You're enjoying the life you're given. Your whole life and job and purpose is to get up and beat each other to death because you can. The biggest orc is the man who understands everything. He is the boss. And orcs have this really weird, like, big, dumb, stereotype British accent, which is just hilarious to me. Those are orcs. You fight. You like to fight. Your whole purpose is to fight. You wage war because you want to wage war. You got your boss over there, and you better listen to the boss, because if you don't listen to the boss will squish you and make you an example for the other orcs. And then you can't fight because orc dead. And orc dead can't fight because orc dead. Orcs, they scrap together machines out of parts that don't make any sense, and because they believe, they have the mental imagination that machine will run, it'll run. If that machine...
You know, there's so many universes where orcs always are portrayed like stupid, you know, and a bit goofy, but it's... In this, dude, orcs in Warhammer are just
out of
different.
Gas, you're driving that machine with your fellow orcs, and the biggest orc is behind the wheel, and you run out of gas, some orc behind you like, oh, Zog, we're out of gas. And the big orc is like, no, we're not. I filled the fucking gas tank up earlier. And all the other orcs are like, oh yeah, you did do that. And then you turn the fucking mech back on, and it works again. Does it have gas? Probably not, but it works. The power of imagination. They paint things red because it makes them think they goes faster. They paint things purple because it's the sneakiest color. You want to know why? You ever seen a purple orc? Didn't fucking think so.
I'm gonna do something heretical, Bricky. I see them. We have found them. They're goofy, I like it.
Orcs are also like ancient as hell. They're back in the Eldari time frame. But back then they were called Krorks, and they were much larger and scarier and far more intelligent. Now they're just orcs, and they're big, dumb, and they smack things.
Oh, so they devolved?
Pretty spooky. They're not very well armored, but they hit really hard, and it's called the Green Tide because there are so many orcs. There are about as many orcs as there are Tyranids. Maybe more.
No way, but like Tyranids might be outside our galaxy, and there's still as much orcs in our galaxy as Tyranids outside?
Who knows? But they keep on,
that's crazy.
So it's not too bad of an issue.
How do we
orcs
even
are
reproduce?
Entirely comic relief. Their stuff is slapped together. That makes no sense. Their vehicles don't work the way they're supposed to, but they work because they think it works, because they imagine that it works. Orcs care only about who is the biggest orc, and they will follow the biggest orc. And then if they want to be the biggest orc, they'll challenge the biggest orc. And then when they go and they issue a Wa is just war in orc, they murder everybody and everything in this giant tide of green orcs who are just excited to be hitting something. They don't care that they're hitting Eldar or the Imperium or Tau.
Poor human, look, he's gonna be fed to that monster.
In between. They're just so they get to beat shit up. That's orcs. And on the tabletop, they are a total coin flip, and they're really fun. I have never met a salty orc player. I have never met someone who plays orcs and is ever just a bad guy or that guy. Orc players have this kind of fun to them because when you play them, you are completely submitting yourself to RNG. So here's the thing.
Orcs is the only faction I think that I dislike yellow color, but orcs make it work.
Guy. Orc players have this kind of fun to them because when you play them, you are completely submitting yourself to RNG. So here's the thing. Guardsmen, Imperial Guardsmen, when they shoot, they roll a dice on a 4 up, they'll hit their target. They have a 50% chance. Space Marines, pretty good. They hit on a 3 or higher because they're well trained. Adeptus Custodians, they hit on 2s because they're just super well trained. Orcs, they hit on a 5 or higher. But if they roll a 6, they get to make another shot with anything.
RNG, basically.
From the dinkiest pistol to the biggest rocket launcher. It doesn't matter. Half of their stuff will blow up on a whim. One of their medics, if you roll a 1 to heal someone, you fuck up your surgery and you just kill an orc. They're so wacky and silly. But the thing is, if you roll well, you roll high,
another
and you
unsuccessful
keep rolling high,
surgery.
You are going to crush people. And if you
Yeah, I
don't,
bet.
you lose.
I bet it's probably crazy when you roll. You know, it's possible to roll a 6, like, let's say 3 or 4 times in a row. I bet when that happens, you feel like a
That's what
god.
you get when you play orcs. That's what happens when you play orc. It's a coin flip, which is why you can't be a salty bitch when you play orcs, because things won't go your way. It's just the roll of the dice. You're playing a dice game. But if you're going to have fun and you want to be stupid and you want to be silly, you're going to play some damn orcs. But on the opposite side of the...
Okay, before we go to, I think these are Necrons, I obviously like showing some Dawn of War things, and I prepared. So this is from Dawn of War. To anyone who haven't played this game, I really suggest you to play. Probably one of the best Warhammer games that there is. Amazing. I love this game. I think what's a bit crazy is that half of the units are missing. There's like flash kits are missing, which is very weird. Definitely play. A lot of cool stuff. He told about this doctor. Yeah, this guy is actual unit in the game as well. He's super OP. Really love them. Also, what's cool, all their buildings have like this dudes with machine guns on top. So what's fun, all of their buildings can do damage. So it's very OP. All of their buildings are OP as hell. It's okay. Love the faction. Let's continue with Spooky.
fun part of this. Let's talk about the Necrons. The Necrons are spooky, scary skeletons and very grimdark again. They have a much more fleshed out lore than before. Back in the day, they were just undead Egyptian space terminators.
No,
and they
look
still
like
look
that.
that way, but now they actually have a story. So way back in the day, you had the Necron tier. Kind of see a theme here: Eldari, Eldar, Krork, Orc, Necron, Necron tier. So the Necron tier were this race of generally kind of shitty people. Not because they were personally shitty, but because their lives were awful. They were ill-fated to a horrible existence of like radiation and a terrible planet they lived on, and everything just really sucked. Being a Necron tier was just really depressing. They really were looking for immortality. They were extremely reliant on the hope that they would eventually find the key to living forever and just stave off this horrible nature that they were thrust upon them, and therefore
they decided to become robots.
Dominant race in the galaxy. And they found this group. They're called the Old Ones. Imagine them kind of like the Forerunners in Halo or the Xel'Naga in StarCraft, right? These Old Ones were these strong, pretty much omnipotent beings.
Is this Old One? Because in the game this is the... not Deceiver, something like Night Harvester.
And they, of course, knew the key to immortality. So the Necrons went to them and said, please, show us your ways. And the Old Ones said, piss off. Not really. They were a lot more humble about it. But they
Old Ones didn't want to help
their secret
Necrons.
of immortality with the Necrons. The Necrons, of course, took this very well and waged war with them.
Reasonable.
Kind of under this united banner. The Necron different dynasties didn't really like each other, but under this one man, the Silent King, he thought the best way to unite his race was to do this giant war with the Old Ones out of spite for them keeping the secret of immortality to them. This was known as the War in Heaven, and this is actually...
War in Heaven. What a name.
Like a multi-stage war. Because during this war in heaven, they discovered the star gods, a whole new race of people known as the Catan, or the Catan. These star gods were also very much like Old Ones, almost omnipotent beings, and they too had the key to immortality. And so the Necrons went to them and said, hey, can you help us fight off the Old Ones? Can you help us kill these Old Ones, you, the Catan? And the Catan said yes. And in fact, we can help provide you with the immortality you so desperately seek. So the Silent King of the Necrons decided to make a pact with the Catan to allow them to accept this generous gift of immortality upon them. But this, of course, had been a horrendous trap, and the Necrons were
Not good guys.
dragged in chains to this biotransference where their flesh was stripped from them, replaced with nothing but a metal hollow shell, as their souls were ripped from their body and fed to the Catan. And the Catan fattened up. They got chonk on the souls of the Necrons. As this was their plan all along, they consumed the flesh and souls of the Necron tier and turned them all into unwilling robotic slaves just to serve their will. And then, with their new-founded Necron army, they pointed their guns at the old ones, and the Catan continued their domination of the stars and their genocide, complete and full genocide.
Okay, it's a bit confusing. So, if I understand it correctly, Necrons found the old ones. Old ones were basically gods. Necrons said, "Help us cure cancer." Old ones said, "No." Necrons were divided, but because of this, they united and waged war. They lost. But upon fighting them, they discovered Catan. Catan said, "We can help you kill the old ones." The old one, wait. So Necrons find the Catan, and Catan says, "Hey, we can help you grant immortality and defeat the old ones." So Necrons with Catan kill old ones. But it was a trap because the old ones ate Necron souls.
Of these old ones.
So
the old
Necrons
ones
do not
did their
exist.
best to stave it off. They even created other races, the Eldari.
I mean,
and
Necron
the Orcs,
tiers
to try
don't
to fight
exist.
off
It's now
the
Necrons.
horrifying Necron army and the Catan above them. But there was absolutely no possible.
Yeah, I knew that weird part that when old ones were being destroyed, they created Eldars and Orcs to fight against Necrons with Catan, but it wasn't enough to save old ones.
And the old ones were absolutely extinguished across the galaxy.
Okay, now
their
it all
entire
makes
race
sense.
completely removed. Full-on 100% genocide.
Not
However,
even one?
during all this, the Catan, so just infatuated with their victory, started fighting each other for fun, for sport, and for small differences, doesn't matter. The Catan, with these overpowered people, they're going to eventually hit each other at some point. And as they began just menially fighting each other, the Eldari and the Orcs actually started pushing on the Catan's borders a little bit, giving them a little bit of a run for their money. And as this continued, this is when the Silent King, who retained his consciousness, decided
such
to leap
cool
into
name
action
as well.
and start a full-scale revolt against their Catan masters. And this revolt was bloody, as the entire Necron army was surged off to destroy these star gods. They were able to, just after suffering horrendous losses, were able to turn the tide of the war. And they took these Catan and they blasted them. Because as these star gods are unkillable, they were able to break them into thousands of shards and entrap them in giant stasis vaults to now actually be slaves to the Necrons. And with the Necrons having the entirety of their old gods enslaved to them, they realized that soon their race was...
So again, now, after all that, the old ones were basically, the Catan were fucking around. The Necron king gained consciousness, decided to do a revolt. They managed to not kill them, but break them and make them serve them. But they're still left soulless.
About to be attacked by the overcoming new races, the Eldari and the Orks. And so what they did is they retreated into giant stasis tombs in order to preserve their energy.
Preserve energy.
For when one day they would be reawakened and they would be able to rule the galaxy that was rightfully theirs. And then some dingus Adeptus Mechanicus guy diddled with a green console, and now the Necrons are back and they see all these primitive races on their lawns and they think, get the fuck off of it. The Necrons are back, super advanced, and they are here to reclaim the galaxy that they so rightfully believe is theirs. Now at tabletop, they're a lot like that. Tons of undead
I like their
Egyptian skeleton
aesthetics, very
robots
cool.
that when they die, they just get right back up because they keep on reanimating. Hard to kill, tons of crazy stuff. You can use the Catan themselves as units to fight with. It's pretty cool. The Necrons are one of the three major events in 40k. The Horus Heresy, the Fall of the Eldar, and the Awakening of the Necrons are all pretty substantial events. And the Necrons themselves are pretty dang cool as well. Here's a good quote from a wonderful Dawn of War game.
Just by seeing the first two words, this is from the Dawn of War campaign game when you invade the
Lucky
Necron
creatures,
tomb.
as long last you have found the tranquility of death. I was like you once, clinging to life and blind to the truth. When I uncovered the truth, I too shuddered and paled with fear. Deep in these catacombs, I was remade. Here, my brethren slumbered for eons while the living grew like weed. My Lord knew this day would come. He had plans for us all. We would purge this world once more. So come, poor victims of life. We will grant you tranquility in these crypts. Kronos will be a tomb world once more.
Yeah, the planet
Necrons
name was
are
Kronos.
also pretty smug. Trazen the Infinite especially.
Trazen the
dickhead.
Infinite.
But speaking of dickheads,
Okay, before we go to the dickhead, aka Tau, we're gonna go obviously to the Necrons. So for me, I love Necrons, but the problem with them is that they're very extremely slow-paced gameplay. It's like, imagine you're queuing up into the game with your grandpa. This is basically a grandpa faction, and I played them, but they're not my cup of tea. They have a lot of overkill abilities. The Nightbringer, that's so you can actually summon that Catan. Extremely broken. I think he cannot die while he's up. He can be stunned. He's crazy. So also the Necrons played a bit differently from our faction. They use scarabs to build and capture the points. The Necron warriors is also strange. They are free. You can build them for free. I like all of their units are crazy. Immortals, the flayed ones, the Friars. Oh my god, so cool. Annoying, weak. I hate these guys. Restore the monolith. The fact that you can go in with your main build. It's crazy. Like they're so crazy. It's insane. Extremely underrated factions. So let's continue with our friends. Oh, sorry.
the exact formation of the tower
Yeah, obviously
Empire is
anime
not
girls.
entirely understood. However, a long time ago, many thousands of years ago,
I am one
in the
myself
40K
right now
world,
as a
that is,
VTuber.
some Imperial
so fuck.
navigation vessels were going around through different areas, and they saw a primitive race, blue people, smacking each other with sticks and stones. They thought, dumb Xenos race, who gives a shit, and they bailed. Then this giant warp storm occurred right in that major area, unable to be breached. Then, once that warp storm 6,000 years later subsided, hello, those little sticks, well, they just...
Oh, so Tau Empire is like only 6,000 years old.
decided to actually have
That's
no
crazy.
war of any kind, and all
Just think about, let's say Warhammer universe, let's say the humans still needed like 200,000 years to evolve, and then they have 40k on top, and like, you know, the Tau are like 6,000 years
one
old.
flag of the Tau Empire, and now they have
And they
gigantic
achieved
starships
so
and
much.
Gundam
That's
robots
crazy.
and lasers and railguns and mechs, and they are here to ruin your day for the greater good.
Also want to say, like, for me personally, I genuinely like, sometimes I feel like they don't really fit into the world.
That is generally the
They're
Tau
so
Empire.
different.
They have this kind
It's
of
like they
feeling
came from
of
different
this
game.
homogenous group. All species can go underneath the banner of the greater good. The greater good is
Okay.
their idea of the fundamental increase and help of all. In fact, they are most likely the most like the Covenant in Halo,
No idea
where they
who
have
this
the
is.
overarching prophets, being the Ethereals, who are actually kind of dicks and like to pull at strings a little bit, but then you have all these different races directly underneath them, and they all work together in this big group as this large, foreboding race that tries to spread.
So any race can become Tau. They are eager to take you in. Okay, that's so cool.
The alien is not intrinsically evil. Do not hate him. Pity him, his ignorance. Seek to understand his differences and equate him with his inadequacies. Only then will he accept his place in the greater good. That is generally the Tau. And if you're kind of wondering like what their mainly big shtick is, well, they're all about big robots and mechs. They have laser rifles
big robots
and rail
are
guns.
super
They got
cool.
giant mechs with tons of missile pods and heavy rail rifles and rail guns and burst cannons and ion accelerators and void shields and all this stuff. And that is generally what the Tau's all about. But you're probably thinking, Bricky, this doesn't sound that evil. This doesn't sound very grim, dark Warhammer.
Oh, yeah, yes,
right.
I agree.
The Tau Empire really don't have that much of a horrifying, grim, dark style like everybody else. They're much more younger, new age thing. In fact, they're probably a lot less evil and a lot even better than they are now back in the day because they liked having like that good guy faction. But a lot of us who really like the dark, depressing style of Warhammer didn't really like it that much. So, see, the Tau get a lot of hate, and a lot of that hate isn't necessarily unjustified. It's mainly from a tabletop perspective, but as you can see from all the visuals I've shown you recently, they don't really fit in the 40k universe very well. They lack that super dark, dramatic kind of high.
But that's not a reason to hate them, though.
They don't have the weird kind of like grungy stuff that Chaos or say the Orcs do, and the Necrons and the Eldar have their own specific style as well. The Tau really do look like something out of Gundam, and while it isn't necessarily a bad thing, it does definitely not fit too well. There's that. There's also the tabletop problem. In tabletop, Tau are horrible at
Imperial Guardsmen slaps Tau C, it's
melee
easy.
combat, but exceptionally good at range combat. So they blast everyone from really, really far away, and they have a million rules to make it so that it's nearly impossible for you to get into melee combat. So it basically just forces you to bottleneck the game into one specific gameplay style, which is gun to gun. And if you're doing gun to gun, they're going to win every time because they're the Tau.
Oh, so that's a tabletop balance
and the Tau are
problem with
really
them.
damn
Okay,
good
yeah.
at shooting.
I mean,
so it's one of those things that make the Tau generally rather hated, and a lot of different reasons for that, both from style and such. But this is actually one of the things I wanted to end this video with, is that the Tau, while they have their issues, you should not be discouraged from playing them. I'll make plenty of Tau weeaboo jokes, of course I will, but it's all generally in good fun. Anyone who legitimately doesn't want you to play a faction is an idiot, and you shouldn't be giving them the time of day.
I agree.
You pick what you think is cool and what you like. In Warhammer, especially now, factions get better and they get worse. They grow and then they fall. You should only be playing what you think is cool. You like the look, you like the models. If you're talking tabletop, that is what you should be going for every time, is what you think is badass, because things change all the time. But the universe of Warhammer has so much going for it. Every faction has something interesting, every character has a story, and there's a million stories to be told. The universe is vast and exciting, and while it is dark, depressing, and horrible, that is the damn charm. And out of everything I've told you in these two videos, is anything you could take away is the reason why so many of us are so into this series.
Yeah, I get
it
it more and more.
So much. Because with so much variety, such an expansive universe, and so much that can be done, you can find yourself having a pretty great time. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it has been informative to you.
Thank you,
If you'd like to see
Bricky.
more of me, Bricky, you have twitch.tv/Bricky for my streams. You have my merchandise site, in which I was wearing all of my merch.
I like the
underneath
third,
this
the
because
mace
I
one
had to
looks
wear this So
cool.
it wasn't black or white for the
What does it say? Raptapatap?
green screen, which
Well,
is a little
I'm
unfortunate, but it's fine.
butchered it.
If you'd like to see merch, it is in the description.
Raptapatap.
Also, if you'd like to support me on my Patreon page at patreon.com/Bricky for more videos like this, then that would also be wonderful. So Twitch, merch, Patreon, anything if you want to support, that would be fantastic. I'd appreciate it. If not, I'm just stoked you got all the way to the end of the video, and that is enough for me. So We're going to be having some more content like this out in the future. Thank you so much for sticking around this long and being with me through this pretty rough time. That's, I think, all I got. Also, before I go, let me leave you with my favorite Warhammer quote. He who scoffs at the power of the las gun has never ran through a field of 1,000.
Now that's some real shit. Oh my god. Okay guys, obviously, video is great. I have to show you the elders in Dawn of War, so here I am. Ethereal. Dumbbells broken unit. Spawns legendary snipers which can hit you across the map. Broken. Also, guess what? Not only he can spawn them, he can make a copy of them. He can make, and basically he can copy any unit. Any unit. Their units. XV-15 battlesuit. OP is invisible units. This thing can see invisible units. This thing can hit you across the map. This thing can fuck you up literally. It can eat you. I don't like this game. This is like, my god, their units are crazy. And like, again, with Croots, I'm not fond of them. Here, so this ethereal guy, he spawns these Shasui bodyguards. They're the best, I think, single-handedly best unit in the game. We ignore this part. Brick already said. Their vehicles all super cool. Hit you across the map. Crazy. Saddest part about them, they don't have any turrets. So they're the only faction in game that doesn't have any turrets. So yeah, a bit weak compared to other factions that can build turrets. Okay, so this video was heckin' crazy. Let's find some nice screenshot where we could stop. So I actually didn't know that Necrons have such deep lore for me. As Bricky said, it was just Terminators in space. We're not. We're super cool. I didn't know partially they were responsible for creation of Orks and Elders. Well, not directly, but because of their existence, Orks and Elders were made. And I mean, I love Elders, and Orks are just probably the funniest faction in the game. Crazy. We definitely now we have, at least me, I have a better understanding of each faction, and what I'm looking forward next is hopefully I'm gonna try to find maybe some video that would, I guess now I'm a bit confused on the timeline, because there's 4 chaos gods, but there was a timeline where there was only 3 chaos gods, and it's a bit confusing with Necrons and Elders. I don't know where were Elders and Orcs made. You know, I need like a timeline video, so I'm probably gonna try find it to react to. So yeah, Bricky did an amazing job, and thank you guys for watching this video with me, and thank you for even listening me ramble about nonsense. I bet you, half of you that watch this video don't even care about Dawn of War, but I really hope that if you never played it, you should genuinely give it a try. Even on Steam sales, the game costs like 2 or 3 euros. Like, it's like, you can play it once on a weekend. It's a genuinely good game. I really want to bring more people to that game. It's one of my favorite games there is. And okay, guys, good luck, and ciao, cacao.